Hello and welcome to the Daily Aus. I'm Emma Gillespie.
I'm Billi FitzSimons.
A new denim ad featuring actress Sydney Sweeney has sparked major controversy over recent weeks over what critics say are references to white supremacist messaging. The ad has divided opinion online and drawn responses from major political figures, including Donald Trump. The controversy centres around the language used in the campaign and questions about beauty standards in advertising. Today, we are breaking down everything you need to know about this viral ad, from what happened to why people are upset, the political response, and the ongoing fallout. Billi, I think to start off with, most of our audience do know who Sydney Sweeney is, but just in case, for anyone listening who doesn't, what do we need to know about her?
So Sydney Sweeney is an American actress. She is best known for her roles in Euphoria and also in The White Lotus.
Season 1.
Yes. Well, I didn't watch that season, so I'm actually not that familiar with Sydney Sweeney. But what I do know her from is the film Anyone But You, which was filmed in Australia. And so I feel like a lot of Australians know her, if not from those TV shows.
If not from those massive hit successes, they might know her from Anyone But You.
Because she spent many months here.
She filmed in Sydney for a long time. That is correct. Maybe what is lesser known for an Australian audience, though, is American Eagle. What's American Eagle?
Yes, so they are a fashion brand. They primarily they produce jeans and denim. Mm-hmm. And I think for the purposes of this, that's basically what you need to know about them. They are a jeans brand.
Okay, now let's start with the ad itself. What can you see in this ad? What is it showing?
Yeah, so there are multiple different ads. They all show Sydney Sweeney. Sometimes she's lying down, she's walking around, she's wearing the jeans in all of the ads. Here is some audio from just one of those ads.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
And you'll hear there the wordplay with genes as in Jeans and jeans as in Genes. I don't know how that sounds for an audio platform, but
genetics.
I think you get where I'm going. And so it's a play on words there. Mm-hmm. Now, again, for anyone who's not familiar with Sydney Sweeney, she is a white woman. She has blonde hair and she has blue eyes, which they reference in the audio that you just heard. And I think you can pretty safely assume that the inference in this ad is that she is a conventionally attractive woman, and they're really playing into that here.
Yeah, I would go as far to say as Sydney Sweeney is a famously conventionally beautiful woman.
Exactly.
So there's that play on words there, genes as in denim jeans and genes as in genetics.
That's a better way of explaining it than the spelling out that I did.
You crushed it, Billi. Why are people upset about the ad?
Yeah, so critics on social media say that the great genes phrasing, as in the genetics phrasing, combined with Sweeney's appearance, really echoes white supremacist language that promotes eugenics. Now, eugenics is a debunked theory that claims selective breeding can create a superior race. You likely would have heard it when it comes to Nazis. It's really an idea that fueled Nazi ideology, and it remains popular among alt-right groups today. Mm-hmm. To give you an idea of kind of the commentary that is happening online around this ad, one person said, "The American Eagle's ad wasn't just a commercial. It was a love letter to white nationalism and eugenic fantasies, and Sydney Sweeney knew it." Another one that I saw on TikTok, this has been everywhere on TikTok, I saw a comment that said, "When those traits are consistently uplifted as genetic excellence, we know where this leads. This just echoes pseudoscientific language of racial superiority." And so the controversy is essentially about accusations that the ad is making a subtle reference or even an explicit reference to these harmful theories of eugenics and white supremacy. There was also criticism for the sexualization of Sydney Sweeney in the ad, but I think that was kind of a side part. And the main thing here really is the racial undertones or the accusations of racism at play here.
Okay. I think it's also probably worth noting that American Eagle as a brand, I mean, it's literally in the name that there's this kind of American nationalism, this very like US sort of tone, the red, white and blue, the eagle that is an iconic bird associated with US imagery, and I mean the relationship between America and neo-Nazism. So what has the response been like from the brand? Have we heard from American Eagle?
We have. So they actually didn't respond for a little while. So these ads first were published on the 23rd of July and they didn't say anything for more than a week. We only heard from them over the most recent weekend. So,
and as we sometimes see with these stories, that silence kind of fed into this theory online or this kind of conspiracy that has blown up because of that silence.
Yeah, and I think people didn't know what they were going to say. You never know, you know, are they going to issue an apology or are they going to double down on the messaging and kind of say that they have nothing to apologize for? I would say out of those two, they did the latter. So in the statement that they posted over the weekend, they said, Sydney Sweeney has great genes, is and always was about the genes. Her genes, her story.
Her genes with a J.
Genes with a J. They also added, great genes look good on everybody. So they're really maintaining that this was, or they're claiming that this was purely about the clothing and there was no deeper messaging here. I will say that, like you said, Em, in that statement, they spelled jeans with a J and they didn't acknowledge the ads that do spell jeans with a G. So in at least one of the ads, they do explicitly spell genes with a G, how it's spelled for genetics, and then they cross it out and replace it with the other genes.
Okay.
So they don't acknowledge that in the statement, but it definitely did happen.
Okay, so it seems like they're trying to brush that off as like a harmless wordplay marketing line. What about Sydney Sweeney? She's a popular global star. She's especially popular as an actress with younger audiences because of shows like Euphoria, which is really a show for young people.
Yeah.
What has she said?
She hasn't said anything. So she's remained silent on the controversy. That doesn't mean that she hasn't been out in public. So she has still been posting to her Instagram. She's also been at least one public event. So earlier this week, she went to a red carpet for one of her films. So she has been out and about, but she has not addressed this controversy.
That is kind of surprising in this day and age, I guess, when celebrities feel so accessible, when we all have social media and we all follow celebrities on social media, it feels almost like it would be harder to not address it. So I think that probably says a lot. Billi, as you mentioned, this ad has been around for a few weeks. This story has been bubbling, but I have seen that it's now entered the political sphere. How did that happen?
Hi, I'm Zara. I'm the co-founder of the Daily Aus, and we started this company because we think news can be done differently. If you agree, you can hit subscribe. It's the best way to help us grow. Now, back to the video.
Yeah, so this isn't the first time that Sweeney has faced controversy or backlash from her fans. Now, you might remember, I don't remember this, but you might remember that in 2022, she shared pictures of her mum's 60th birthday. And you could see in those snaps that she uploaded to her Instagram that some of the members of her family were wearing Make America Great Again style hats.
Okay.
And they read, Make 60 Great Again.
Okay.
So just another play on words in a very different style.
But a play on a very loaded Republican, Trumpian mantra.
Yes, exactly. And Sweeney did acknowledge the backlash at that time and she criticized it. She said that people had turned, quote, an innocent celebration into an absurd political statement. And now you might be wondering, what does this have to do with the current controversy? So after all of this went down with American Eagle, some people online did some digging around and they found more of a connection between Sydney Sweeney and the Republican Party. So they actually found that Sydney Sweeney registered as a Republican voter in the months prior to Donald Trump being elected for the second time.
So that was just last year.
Exactly.
So following that kind of controversy that she spoke out against about her mum's birthday, then some time passes and it's the lead up to the US election last year, and Sydney Sweeney registers formally as a Republican voter. But I do think it's worth pointing out that, you know, this is one part of a developing controversy. That doesn't mean that we're saying anything about her political preferences, and that doesn't mean that her political preferences make her a Nazi.
No. And again, we're not saying that, but I guess that her fans or people on the internet are criticizing her for her political decisions, and that's made a big part of why this has continued to be a big story in the days and weeks after this ad was first published, if that makes sense.
It makes absolute sense. It's also interesting, and I think speaks to the current US political landscape, where maybe 10 or 20 years ago, if we found out that an artist or an entertainer was a quote unquote Republican, I don't think it damaged their brand or reputation as much as we've seen it damage the reputation of modern and contemporary performers and artists.
Yeah.
I mean, case in point, Donald Trump struggling to find names for people to perform at his inauguration, and the Wikipedia page with a growing list of artists who have protested him playing their songs at his events. So there is definitely a political and a social conversation about the impact of identifying as a Republican in 2025.
It's definitely a different political landscape that everyone's playing in.
So tell me about Donald Trump weighing in on this. How did he find out? What has he said?
So he was asked about it by a reporter just as he was about to get on to Air Force One. Here is what he said.
President, actress Sydney Sweeney came out this weekend that she was a registered Republican. Any thoughts on that?
That who was?
Sydney Sweeney. She's like a very hot actress right now.
She's a registered Republican?
Yes.
Oh, now I love her ad. Is that right? Is Sydney Sweeney? You'd be surprised at how many people are Republicans. That's what I wouldn't have known, but I'm glad you told me that. If Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, I think her ad is fantastic.
So clearly they're praising Sydney Sweeney and the ad as well. And after that happened, he then doubled down on his social media platform, Truth Social. He said the American Eagle ad was the hottest ad out there. And he also added that the jeans are flying off the shelves. Go get him, Sydney, is what he said. So I think you get the picture that he is very much in support of Sydney Sweeney. Now, Trump isn't the only politician who has weighed in on this. His vice president, J.D. Vance, also weighed in. He said the response to this is an example of the difference between Democrats and Republicans.
It actually reveals something pretty interesting about the Dems, though, which is that you have like a normal all-American beautiful girl doing like a normal jeans ad, right? They're trying to sell jeans to kids in America, and they have managed to so unhinge themselves over this thing. And it's like, you guys, did you learn nothing from the November 2024 election? Like, I actually thought that one of the lessons they might take is we're going to be less crazy. The lesson they have apparently taken is we're going to attack people as Nazis for thinking Sydney Sweeney is beautiful.
So we're seeing the political conversation, or I guess the conversation from the right in the US, leaning on that trope of it's woke culture, it's PC gone mad.
Exactly.
Has anything else happened in recent days? Because this story isn't going away.
No, I mean, we had a conversation about whether or not it was too late for us to explain the controversy.
Yeah.
But it really has just kept going and going and isn't dying down. I think the only other thing to mention that has been significant is you might think that this level of controversy has been bad for American Eagle's reputation, but actually, in terms of its financials, it's kind of done the opposite, or it has done the complete opposite.
Wow.
So on Monday, after Trump's post, American Eagle Outfitters, which is the umbrella brand, their shares actually jumped 24%. And it was their best day in about 25 years, according to Wall Street Journal, on the stock market.
Wow.
So they have added hundreds of millions of dollars to their valuation.
Okay. Wow. I think that's really significant, or an important turning point in this story, because what some people might have dismissed as maybe a frivolous, viral social media conversation has actually had real world economic impacts of significant value.
Yeah, and I think that is largely to do with Donald Trump's comments, the US president's comments, supporting it.
Yep. Well, Billi, I think we're all now going to be waiting to hear from Sydney Sweeney. Whether she likes it or not, she has kind of become almost a poster child for the MAGA movement this month or in the last few weeks. You would think if that was deeply against her politics that she would want to explain that, but maybe it's not against her politics. Either way, I have a feeling we're probably going to be talking about this again at some point in the future.
It will be fascinating to see what she does, because if she comments on it in a week, or if she comments on it in 5 years in, you know, a celebrity profile that she does looking back on her life, at some point, I imagine she will have to comment on this.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Billi, thank you so much for taking us through that today. We really appreciate you breaking down a pretty complicated one for us.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to today's episode. We will be back a little later on this afternoon with your evening news headlines. But until then, have a great day.